No one talks about it. We just see what happens when we suppress it. The night before we came up with a plan, the morning of became a different story. Holding the boundary of watching a teen become an adult brings you right back to the moment you became a parent. The first time you held your child, the joy that washed over you, and then the intense panic. What if? What if I fuck it all up? I'm back here again, and this time, I'm not the only one experiencing the contrast of becoming a new version of ourselves. I hold firm the boundary we both agreed upon the night before. I stand with an open heart as daggers are being thrown. I know they are not hurtful or intentional, but rather the energy we all experience when we are faced with resistance, fear, and our desire to crawl back into our comfort zone. I see myself in him, my old self when I was his age, my current self as I still battle with human emotions like fear, resistance, and the contrast of wanting to crawl back into my comfort zone. It's in these moments that I hold the space. I hold his anger being projected towards me without reacting, attempting to stand there with non-judgmental eyes. I hold my own grief, my own sadness, and life's frustrations without projecting them onto him. I stand there yet again in an emotionally uncomfortable moment that only a mother understands. The moment I hold my child accountable to the man I know he deeply desires to become, when all I want to do is cry, hug him, and say, "Please, stop growing. I feel you slipping away." This morning as we drove to school, which was unusual because they typically take the bus, I reflect on the morning hustle with gratitude. One child who is almost done school and another 8 years younger. The gap is large and I see the contrast clearly. These are the moments we miss, and these are the moments we hate when we are in them. We complain of how busy and tiring parenting is, when in reality, I think what we are doing is covering up our sadness, knowing that these moments are limited. And the balance we crave has nothing to do with our to-do list, but rather asking ourselves, how can I hold this feeling and discomfort of knowing my children are growing and all I want to do is soak up every moment without losing myself in the process? All right, ladies. So that is my story today. I wrote this out, of course, after a morning chaos. And I get a lot of questions in my DMs on Instagram, sometimes even on LinkedIn, text message, emails, client questions, asking about boundaries. But oftentimes, people aren't asking the question of like, how do I hold a boundary? What people are saying is, how do I get my children to listen to me? How do I get my teenager to do this? How do I get my teenager motivated? And I always say to that person, or I respond, just cross out that other person's name and insert your name. How do you motivate yourself? How do you get your teenager to listen to you? How do you listen to yourself? And this is the humanity that we are all seeking. I am not better than my child. My child is not better than me. We are two human beings. We're actually two souls having this human experience. His emotional distress is not a product of my quote unquote bad parenting. I may have influenced it in some capacity, but he is his own entity. He is his own soul having a human experience. And all I am here to do is to guide, to be a spiritual teacher, to learn and to grow alongside with him. And when I wrote that the other day, what I was really reflecting on is this fear and anxiety and worry and chronic overwhelm that seems to be the identity of a lot of parents, especially today. And I notice that when I'm in these moments, which I come back to them again and again and again, it's this conversation around being emotionally uncomfortable. Are you willing to sit there and to hold your own feelings, whatever they are, anger, frustration, resentment, overwhelm, fatigue, and hold your own feelings because they belong to you. They don't belong to anybody else. Are you willing to hold them and not project them? See, we get angry at other people or we project our shit onto other people because we don't know how to process them, because we've been taught as humans that emotion is bad, when in reality, emotion is the core of the human experience. And if you do not understand how to process your emotion, your fear, your resistance, your anger, your resentment, you will never know how to experience joy and joy and abundance. We experience all of the emotions and sometimes on a daily basis. But if you don't know how to hold the ones that you don't like feeling, you definitely aren't going to know how to keep the ones that feel good in our bodies. So this is an interesting season in my parenting because I am holding grief, like deep grief of knowing that, it even wants to bring me to tears talking about it, that a season is almost complete. But that I still have 2 other children that I get to parent in the process. And it's so intriguing to me because when you are in it, you so badly just want it over with. And then when it's over, you realize that you had to, I guess the key was to figure out how to find the joy in the everyday chaos. Find the gratitude in the everyday messiness. And so that's when you can walk into a room that is just full of shit. The kitchen table, a child's bedroom, just clothes and toys all over the place, and go, oh, this room is full of love. This room is full of abundance. This room is full of joy. This room is full of safety. Like, look at all of the things in front of me that I have access to. Look at it all. And, this is that contentment and that peace that everybody is searching for. But what happens is our ego gets in the way, our perfectionism gets in the way, and it tells us that we're wrong, that we're doing something wrong, right? So you go back to that moment, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm holding a boundary. I'm not yelling. I'm holding a boundary. I'm respecting my child in front of me. I'm like, I love you. I'm just, holding you accountable to what we said we were going to hold you accountable to, and you agreed. But now that we're in the moment, you don't like this. That's hard. That's emotionally uncomfortable because as a parent, especially as a nurturer, you just want to nurture. And I hear this from so many women. They're like, guilt takes over. And then when guilt takes over, I lose the boundary and I overstep the boundary. And then what do? We teach our children that they can push boundaries. They know. I remember Dr. Shefali, and if you're not familiar with her work, she's magic. So go check her out, Dr. Shefali. She's the author of The Conscious Parent or Conscious Parenting. And she used to talk about boundaries all the time and how I believe, and I believe she's probably said this, that children are emotional manipulators. They know that if they're going to say things to you 5 times, like, can I do this? 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 And they're just persistent. They know how to break you down because they know, okay, I gotta ask 5 times. And on the 6th time, she will say, fine, because she's tired, because I've worn her down. And, if I didn't do the work that I do, this is an exhausting season in parenting. Everyone talks about, there's all the stereotypes of parenting. And I actually don't enjoy stereotyping people's comparative suffering per se, because we never know what other people are experiencing in their lives. And it's interesting because if you are not on your emotional game when you are raising a teen or a preteen, that shit is going to come up in your face quickly. When your children are younger, what I found was, yes, it's still an emotional game and there's still boundaries and a lot of self-care needed. But as an adult, when your children are getting to the point where they're intellectually like meeting you where you're at or above emotionally, damn, that is like detective skills, FBI detective skills. So this has been a really interesting season to watch myself when it comes to emotional manipulation and how I have to hold that emotional boundary, knowing what my weaknesses are going to be, my weak spots, my blinders. How guilt can just sneak in there so creepishly, how it can just, it's so sneaky. And the interesting part is I watch how the inner critic or the inner voice in my parenting, especially with my oldest child right now, is so similar to the one that sabotages my goals, whether it's a personal goal or a professional goal. It's that voice, oh, you've been good. You've been good, Heather. You deserve a break. And how that shows up in parenting is, oh, he's been good, he deserves a break, right? Like, oh, he's followed the rules or he's held that boundary for 4 days, give him a break. And then it's give an inch, take a mile. So I don't have the right answer for you on exactly what you should do. My goal is always to inspire you, to get you thinking, to open your eyes to what that might feel like for you in your personal situation. But my bigger question for you is, are you willing to be emotionally uncomfortable? Are you willing to challenge your guilt? Are you willing to challenge your own fear? Are you willing to challenge your own resistance? And if you are, just try it in one relationship. Try holding that emotional boundary. No yelling, no conflict, no drama needed. Just, hey, I know this is uncomfortable for you. This is uncomfortable for me too. Like, I just want to run and hide and give in, and I typically do, but let's have an emotionally uncomfortable, healthy conversation. And it's such a beautiful thing when you can sit in relationship with somebody, whether it's a toddler or a teenager or an adult, and you can say, I see you. I see what you are capable of, and yet I won't tolerate this behavior because I know that this is fear. I know it's resistance. I know it's sabotage. So let's talk. And the persistence of let's talk and having those uncomfortable conversations is where the magic happens. So let me know what you thought of today's conversation. head on over to our Facebook group, heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. Again, you can always send me a message on Instagram at Heather Chauvin, or text me your aha moment, 313-710-5199. There it is. You just listened to the Emotionally Uncomfortable podcast. If you want to take this conversation to the next level, head on over to our private Facebook group community, heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. My last name is spelled CHAUVIN. That's heatherchauvin.com/Facebook. Or you can text the word Facebook to 313-710-5199. That's 313-710-5199. It's a U.S. phone number, and text message rates will apply. Also, if you are a huge fan of this show, please rate and review it on iTunes. Every review helps another woman like you take back control of how she wants to feel and become emotionally uncomfortable. I truly believe the better we feel, the more alive we become. This is how we are going to change the world. And if you've been watching me for a while, if you've been on the fence and you're curious, how can Heather help me? Head on over to heatherchauvin.com/work with me to check out my mastery and mastery business coaching programs. That's heatherchauvin.com/work with me.